Welcome everyone that's here. Thank you for attending. My name is Kath McIntyre. I look after development and industry development here at the SAFC, and I'm joined by Nara Wilson, who is the First Nations Industry Development Executive. So we have a little presentation for you. So let me just get that started. Here we go. Okay, so everyone can see that? Nara, you can see that? Okay, so Film Lab New Voices Round 2 is a low budget feature film initiative and a skills development program. So it is for low budget feature films of any genre. It could be documentary or it could be scripted. And the program's designed to provide a platform for the next generation of diverse talent, director, writer and producer in SA. Our partners are the Adelaide Film Festival with in-kind support from the Mercury CX, so thank you to them. Now, Film Lab actually has a little bit of history. So the original Film Lab first started in 2009, and a number of films were produced with very strong director, writer, producer teams. And let's just have a look at them for a minute. So it was 52 Tuesdays, In a Demon, One-Eyed Girl, Shut Up Little Man was the documentary, The Infinite Man and Touch. So those films went on to launch the director, writer and producer teams, and also launch quite a few production companies as well. So that's the intention of Film Lab. Here we have our present Film Lab New Voices Round 1 team, who are currently in development with 3 fantastic projects, and they're just about to go into third draft. So that's happening as we speak. Film Lab, so now we're here for Film Lab New Voices Round 2. So we're building on that legacy of the original Film Lab, over 10 years ago, to uncover the new bold voices and to support the next wave of South Australian writer, director and producer talent. So Film Lab New Voices Round 2, it's a skills escalation program. So it's a training initiative, and what you'll get is you'll get to work over 12 months with a major industry script development mentor. Throughout that 12 months, we'll also have a number of guest industry speakers, particularly people who've worked in that low budget area. And also you'll have SAFC staff like myself and Julie Ryan, who's a really accomplished producer, will be here to help and mentor you as well. Nara.
Yeah, so essentially what this program will provide to you is launching your career, and you'll be earning a highly regarded feature film credit, and that's for documentary or scripted, and a festival screening at the Adelaide Film Festival for 2024. The SAFC is prepared to take risks and back new talent in this initiative. But we need to see commitment and professionalism from all teams that are applying. And what we mean by that, we really want to see as many of you applying as possible, but making sure you're touching point, identifying those points in your application. And yes, you must be able to deliver the film by 2024. So to be eligible, you must have at least one key creative from an underrepresented group in South Australia on your team. Underrepresented groups identify as female identifying writers and directors. This isn't for female producers. First Nations practitioners from culturally and linguistic diverse backgrounds, which is English as a second language, deaf or disabled practitioners, LGBTQIA+ practitioners, and of course, practitioners that are located and living in regional and remote areas of SA. So the SAFC are really excited to announce that out of the 3 teams that will be successful, one of them will be a First Nations-led team. So to qualify and be eligible for this, at least 2 members of the key creative team either have to be writer, director or producer, must identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. And if anybody needs some contacts of local Aboriginal practitioners to partner with, please reach out to me and I'll be able to assist you with this.
So teams are encouraged, we do encourage teams to think entrepreneurial about their projects. So one of the questions that we'll come to at the end is, yes, we do expect you to be able to complete these films for $400,000. That's the budget that 3 teams will go through and develop their scripts, and 1 project will go into production. So we do want you to be able to complete that project for $400,000. So we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. Nara?
Yeah, and so please remember to read the guidelines, which will be on our website, and we are here to help you. So please either reach out to myself, Kath McIntyre, or Jess Cahill, and please, before applying, talk to one of us, as we'll be able to help and assist you make your application as strong as possible to be successful for this program.
So just some key dates around Film Lab New Voices Round 2. Okay, so applications are open at the moment. They've been open since the 23rd of September. They close on the 10th of November. The shortlisted teams will be notified on the 23rd of December, just before Christmas. And then those shortlisted teams will be interviewed on the 15th of February. And the 3 successful teams that will go into the Film Lab New Voices Round 2 development program will be announced that week beginning of the 1st of March. Okay, so just to give you a little bit more, sorry, excuse me, a little bit more information about the big picture of the program dates. So if you are successful in one of those 3 teams that will go into the development program, you'll start around March, April, and go to about March, April 2023. So it's a good 12-month development phase, which is fantastic. And then the 3 teams will pitch their projects in April 2023. And what that looks like is they'll pitch it to the SAFC and Adelaide Film Festival. And then the final project will go into production around May, June 2023. You don't have to deliver, you have to probably deliver your marketing materials to Adelaide Film Festival around July 2024. So that one project that gets selected for $400,000 worth of funding has a good 12 months to make their film. So have a think about that you've got 12 months. So you might like to think about what would work in your low budget methodology over that amount of time, or it's up to you and your teams and your project. You could shoot, over a 2-month or 3-month period. It's entirely up to you.
So the application materials that we're looking to see from you, you'll need to apply via Smarty Grants. A maximum 2-page pitch document. We do not want any scripts, short or long form, just a 2-page pitch document. A statement from your creative team's proposed low budget methodology. CVs of all principal named in the team. 1 bios of all the team members. Evidence of chain of title, and we really encourage teams to provide examples and links to their previous works, so we can see that'll make the judgment and assessing quite easier for us in the process. So in that 2-page statement, it's pretty important. So you'll have your up to 3/4 of a page synopsis, which you've got to kind of let us know exactly how the film will, how you see the film, what could be the possible structure of the film and how the story is going to be told. But what else we'd like you to tell us is, what is your team's bold new voice or low budget methodology? We want you to be able to speak to that. And what does your team want to say? What are you trying to say with this particular project and the concept that you have? What does your team know about the story world? Is it a story world that, it's either a genre you love? It could be a story world that you're personally connected to.
if it is a scripted project, if it's a documentary, it could be a story world where you have really unique access. So we want to know about that. And then why is your team the best team to tell this story? You know, is there someone in your team that has unique access to that story world, or is it a, you know, personal story or whatever that be? And also, why now? Why that story? Why that project now?
So how will the applications be assessed? We want to see the originality and creative ambition of your film concepts, the marketability and the potential audience that this might have, the pitch materials, the quality of them, the diversity of the key creative teams, the authenticity of the storytelling, potential for the project to be made within the proposed budget, and the commitment and track record of your team that you're applying with.
Great. Okay, so just to also let you know that you can put in, with your application, one team can put in up to 3 concepts or ideas. If you want to, you don't have to. You can just come in with one really strong project. Don't feel that you have to put in 3 because you can. But if you do have 3 very strong projects, we encourage you to, you know, you can put in up to 3 in your application. Just to let you know a little bit more about the actual lab dates. In March, April, when we start next year, those first 2 weeks are really a full-time commitment. In that first week, Julie Ryan will go through, you know, low budget methodology, what that means. We'll talk about some case studies of some films that have used a really very good low budget methodology in their storytelling and their script and their production. We'll also go into some case studies of past Film Lab films. Other guest speakers will be coming in that first week, and we've also got a list, quite long and extensive list of recommended low budget films for you to start watching. So that's the first week full time, and that will be at the SAFC face to face. And then week 2, you start working with your script development mentor, and that's face to face full time. And that's where you will expand on the idea and the premise. And what you're trying to say with the film, you know, your development model, understanding the vision of the film, so the team is all in agreement. You'll start to write a 1-page synopsis, and you'll get feedback from the major script mentor, and then you'll go on to write a longer, so a 3-page synopsis, a beat sheet, a scene breakdown, etc. And then you'll start writing your first draft. Okay, so you've got 19 weeks to write your first draft, and you can see the deadline there is around the 12th of August. Then you put in your script, and the script development mentor and the SAFC will give you feedback, and then you go off and you write your second draft, and then your third draft, and then your polished draft. In between those major draft deadlines, we'll also do a mid-draft feedback session for you, okay? So the script development mentor will read your script and give you a really substantial mid-draft feedback session, a couple of sessions. And throughout that whole process, the script development mentor and the SAFC are here to help you with any script development questions you may have, or if you just want to reach out and discuss something that you might be thinking about with your script. So the deadline, the 3 scripts from the 3 teams will be submitted on the 10th of March, and then the teams will be interviewed, and one project will go ahead with production funds of $400,000 to be produced. We encourage you to have a look at some low budget films before you put your application in. These are just 3 examples. I've got a long, extensive list. If you would like to email me, I can send that to you. Shut Up Little Man was a documentary that was made in the original Film Lab, and that was made for, you know, all these films were kind of made for $400,000 or under. Once is a UK scripted feature film that was actually made for 150,000 UK pounds. And Clementine is a really good film to watch as well. That's an American low budget film. I think it was made for around 350,000 US dollars. So they're three good examples, but that's not extensive. We really, really encourage you to watch as many low budget films as you can, because low budget is kind of like a genre on its own. It's a beast of its own. And the more you watch, the more you'll understand it. We really encourage you to put in concepts and ideas that can be made for the 400,000, okay? Please don't put in ideas that, you know, you think are 1.5 million and you'll just kind of put it in and you'll get 400 and you'll try and find money from elsewhere. That's not in the spirit of Film Lab. Film Lab is a low budget talent escalation initiative, okay? And it's a lab not only for writers, it's for the producers and directors as well. So throughout that 12-month development period, we'll also be having a lot of guest speakers coming in and a number of industry events so that everybody's developed within the team, including the directors and including the producers. We make that program quite bespoke to the teams. So when we know who the teams are and what the projects are, we'll be able to announce more about the kind of, you know, the intricacies of the whole program. You can put in 3 projects, like I said. One of the teams will be First Nations led, with at least 2 First Nations creatives on the team. You must have an underrepresented person on your team. And of course, we went through those before. All this information is on the guidelines as well. We did say we definitely want to, as part of that underrepresented group, encourage female director and writers. Although, of course, you can be a female producer on the team, you just can't be the underrepresented person on that team, if that makes sense. So we are going to open it up for questions now. So we've got a couple here. Nara, you've got a couple of questions here?
Yeah. Do short films made at uni or short films that haven't been featured in a festival still qualify a team for entry?
Yeah, yes, you should have, we would expect you to have a body of work to apply for Film Lab. We would expect you to have a body of work of short films or web series. We definitely want to see that work. So yes, short films of any, you know, that you've made. I mean, send your best work is my advice. Yes.
Another question here, Kath. Is there a size limit for the teams applying for the initiative?
Okay, so what we're saying is it's for up to 3 in a team. So producer, director, writer. But if you're in a team and you have a director writer who is the one person, that's okay as well. You can be a 2-person team where one of the team is the director writer and one of the team is the producer. That's okay as well. But we're kind of saying, you know, to a maximum of 3 people.
Yeah. I'll just go to the chat. Could a documentary series be considered, or does it have to be one feature film?
It has to be a feature film. Yeah, remember, this is for the Adelaide Film Festival 2024. So yes, it has to be a feature doc. We absolutely encourage documentaries to apply, but it does have to be a feature story. Yep.
Second question here is, can the underrepresented person be the director but may not be from SA? No,
Film Lab is for South Australian people only. Yeah, so your whole team has to be South Australian. This is a very unique and bespoke program to develop talent within South Australia. Yeah, so unfortunately, no one from interstate can apply.
Another question, can we have an established producer attached to the project going in, or is this exclusively for teams with all emerging creatives?
Yes, it is. It's for teams with all emerging creatives. If you feel that you need a more experienced producer, what I would say on that is that you will be very well supported throughout the program. You will have Julie Ryan from South Australian Film Corporation, who's a really accomplished producer. She's produced, you know, Hotel Mumbai, Red Dog, H for Happiness, and many, many other films. So you'll be well supported. So, you know, an executive producer that's very, very experienced is not necessary in this case.
Yep. Next question, is the lab fairly genre agnostic, or is there something in particular that may be sought after?
No, it is any genre, absolutely. Scripted, any genre, horror, comedy, you know, romantic comedy, drama, dramedy, you know, absolutely. Any genre, same with documentary, you know, it's open to any genre. What I would do if I was you and you were going to apply is I would just have a little look at the Adelaide Film Festival website, and they have some information on there about what type of projects they're looking for. So I'd certainly look at AF's website as well. But yes, it's open to any genre.
Next question, the first 2 weeks are full time. How does the rest of the 12 months play out?
Very good question. So yes, those first 2 weeks are quite intensive full time. But then, like you could see in that program that I just had up, and I might bring that back for you, is, okay, so they're the major milestones, those deadlines of your first, second, third, final drafts. And in between that, like I said, there is mid-draft feedback where you put in your script. So it's probably more than a part-time commitment, particularly if you're the writer. But what we've found with our Film Lab teams this year that are in development at the moment is it's very much a team effort. You know, everyone's working really hard. It's not just the poor old writer that goes off and has to work and work and work. The teams have been really supportive. The producer has been just as involved in you know, the story world and writing as the director has. So I'd say it's a little more than a part-time commitment. So you do need to consider that.
Another question, do I have to have already made a feature film to apply?
No, not at all. No, it's deliberately for you know, early career creatives. And we would expect you to have done some shorts or web series or some scripted content. If you're putting in a scripted proposal or a documentary proposal, same, we would expect you to have had some experience in shorts or, you know, short form storytelling or series. But no, you don't have to have made a feature.
Another question.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got one?
Ahead,
no,
Nara.
you go.
Go ahead,
oh, no,
Nara.
you go. Okay. If I'm a student, can I apply for Film Lab round 2?
Not if you're a full-time student, I'm afraid. No. It's in the South Australian Film Corporation terms and conditions. So no, it's not for full-time students. I'm just looking at questions. Do the teams get any funding during the lab? Excellent question. Yes, you do. You will be given, you will have to enter into a development grant agreement with the South Australian Film Corporation, and there will be money available to help you write the script, basically. Yes.
We've got another question from the chat. Kath, can you apply without a producer, or can your director also be the producer?
That's probably not a good scenario for you. I think if you're an early career director, to take on the producing role would just be too onerous on you. It's just far too hard. We do allow the writer to be the director because, of course, sometimes that is the way it works. And often some directors do like to write their own scripts, but no, not really as a producer director. I think it'd just be too onerous. And if this is your first feature film, you really want to just concentrate on your particular craft and, make the most out of this fantastic, wonderful opportunity, because the intention of Film Lab is to have, incredibly bold projects that launch people's careers.
Mm.
Okay, so there's a question here. If a team member is an SA resident but currently based overseas or interstate for work, would they be excluded from applying? We do in our terms and conditions have, we do expect people to have been registered on the enrolment, the electoral roll for at least 6 months. So I would say come and talk to us about that one, because that's a little bit tricky. Okay.
Another question here, Kath. Is the whole creative team required at all the workshopping, or are some specifically for the writer only?
No, it's a team development initiative. So yes, when we're full time for those first 2 weeks, we expect the team to all be there. It's very important that the director and the producer are involved in developing the script, and that the team agrees on the way that the script's being approached. It's definitely for the 3 or 2 people in the team.
I'll just, I think what might get answered later on, but hasn't been asked yet, but First Nations filmmakers also do not have to be making First Nations content. So we want to keep the stories open wide as much as possible, whatever story you want to tell, genre, scripted or doco, but no, it does not have to be First Nations content that you create.
Yeah, that's a good question. Absolutely. And it can be of any genre. But what we are looking for is bold content, bold ideas, and bold storytelling that uses that low budget methodology in its storytelling. And that's why we're encouraging you to watch as many low budget films as you can. They all approach it differently. But what most of those really successful low budget films have done is they haven't looked at the budget as something, negative. They've used it, embraced it to come up with a new way of telling a story. And that's kind of what we're after, and that's what's exciting. Any other questions?
There's one more. Rebecca has asked, can all 3 be writers?
Come and talk to us about that. If one's a producer, writer, director, writer, and writer, of course, I'd just like to we'd like to discuss with you how you think that'll work and how that will work in with the other roles that the director and the producer are doing, and how you see that, how you envisage, not only, we'd want to hear about your concept, but how you envisage that working through development and possibly into production. So let's have a conversation about that one. Yeah.
And this might be our last one. Beyond the initial 2-week workshop, how much actual on-site attendance is required, or is it remote development and consultation?
At this stage, it's as these program timelines are there. Okay, so that's your major one, as well as in between each one of those drafts, there's a mid-draft catch-up. Now, they could either be face-to-face or via Zoom. We are, in a COVID environment, so we're not quite sure what next year will look like. So I can't be entirely sure, but most of those guest speakers that we bring in and the other events that will happen throughout that 12-month period, they're definitely a mix of face-to-face and online events.
Okay.
I think there's just one other that I'd like to bring up. There's just something I'd like to bring up. If you're thinking, if you've got a script, okay, and you think it's $1 million script, okay, I want you to really, or a $2 million script, I want you to really consider this before you put it in, thinking that you can get the 400 and then you'll get the rest of the money later. What we'd like you to think about is the themes, probably the themes in that script. Like, don't put in the big script that you've had for ages and ages. Look at the themes in that story and adapt them to a low budget methodology. Okay, so there's probably some themes that you want to, you know, that you're very, very interested and you want to play with and you want to create a story world around. That's a better way to go. Because if you do, unfortunately, if you do put in a script that has like, 10 cast or, 20 locations, it's just not going to be competitive. We just know that that won't be able to be done for 400,000. Or if it's a script with extensive big visual effects, etc., it just can't be done for the money. So although we do encourage applicants to be entrepreneurial, and if you were part of the successful 3 teams, and we encourage you to attempt to try and bring some other finance in, that's fine, but it would be enhancing funds. Okay, so what I mean by that would be, you might be able to, if you could bring in a bit more money from somewhere else, a private investor or rich uncle or something, that may be used in one of 3 ways. It might be used, that additional enhancing money might be used to get an A-class cast, an A-class actor. It might be used to bring in, a wonderful composer to do your soundtrack. It might be used to do some visual effects of some kind. So have a think about it in that way. If you must put in applications and projects that can be completed for $400,000 and must be able to meet the screening deadline of the Adelaide Film Festival 2024. If you were lucky enough to bring in any additional money, they are enhancement funds, not, it's suddenly a $2 million film. And so if anyone's out there who wants to be in a team and are having trouble finding a team, or have like a 2-person team and need their additional person, please email either Nara or myself. What we're going to do, this is what we did last year, we start compiling a list of director, writers and producers who are looking to be in teams, or people who are looking for that one person to add to their team. And we will share your details with others. And that was a really effective way of some people putting teams together last year. Or fantastic, if you've got your team already, well done, great. We hope you all put in fantastically bold and interesting projects. And I'll just come back to this slide just to finish off. It's really, in your 2-page statement, it's really this that we need to know. What's the bold new voice and the methodology? What does your team want to say? What does your team know about the story world? And why is your team the best team to tell this story? And why now? Why this story now? Okay, so in your 2-pager, if you address these points and also give us, up to a 3/4 page synopsis that really outlines what the story is and how you're going to tell that story. We understand that you're probably coming in with very early concepts. That's fine, but just try and flesh it out for us so we can understand the project that you're proposing for Film Lab. Okay, so thank you everyone. Just to reiterate, you must reach out to Nara or I to talk about your project before applying. So please do that. We're happy to have a conversation and answer any additional questions that you'll probably have after either being here for the webinar or watching the recording. The deadline is the 10th of November. The guidelines are up now, so please have a read of them. Contact us anytime with any questions. We really look forward to receiving your applications. And thank you very much for attending this afternoon.